And we're going to start with the flag salute. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here tonight. This is exciting. And so I think first we have to approve the agenda tonight for our study session. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I move that we approve the agenda and...
Perfect, and let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And our student board member vote?
I say aye.
Aye. And therefore, our motion carries. So the only thing we have on the agenda for the study session is our principals sharing their data update, which is exciting. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Roberts, and you're going to go ahead and introduce the different schools we've got going on.
And did the parent just? Can we go start with Sand Hill then?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, I don't know if everybody knows me. I'm the assistant superintendent, and Dana's out being out training right now, and so she'll be back, but I'm sitting in her stead. And first of all, we have an amazing group of administrators out here that I have the good fortune to work with. And so at the beginning of the year, you asked if, when they presented their school improvement plans, could we have a mid-year check, see what's happening and what's going on? And so they've just done their data review from the middle of the year, and they're ready to share it with you. We're going to start with Sand Hill because he volunteered this afternoon.
Thank you. Can I approach the bench with some?
Sure. If that's what you need.
we need your ID. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead and leave one for John? Yeah.
Just in case he shows up. Thank you.
So, we sent you our building goals for the 22-23 school year, but we just recently had our leadership team kind of look at our data, so that's why I wanted to provide you the most recent update that we have. So if we look at our first SMARTY goal, we really wanted to see growth in students, aggressive growth in some of our students who tested in at lower than grade level. And so what we wanted to represent in the first page here is our early reading, early math, and A math data. And this chart kind of shows from left to right, from the darkest color is the flat growth, then it moves to modest growth, typical growth, and aggressive growth. That's kind of how you read that chart. So we're looking for 80% of our kids to show growth. And those who show up below grade level, we'd like to see aggressive growth in those students. And of course, this is one piece of data. So we really want to focus on all of our grade levels, identify 3 different points of data that they're going to use to show that their student as a whole is growing in their academics in English and math.
Could you say that one more time, Jason, on the charts?
Yeah,
From
so
left to right then?
From left to right, the darkest color is flat growth,
Okay.
modest growth, typical, and aggressive.
So if I'm reading this right, then so like the first box, 16% experienced flat growth?
Correct.
Okay, in that benchmark, okay.
So we kind of look at, if you're looking at the first top box, we're seeing the next 3 tiers there. If we add those up, those are our students that are showing growth. Some is typical, some is moderate, and some is aggressive as well.
And this is compared to your pre-assessment at the beginning of the year?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if we turn to the next page here, and this aligns with our SMARTY goal number 2. And we had talked about implementing characteristics of a successful learner at our school, along with some Hope Navigator work that we did. So we identified 8 categories here that we really wanted to see some growth in our kids. And you can read through those, but I really want to kind of look at the top left. And that's really what we're focusing on. And we see as a team that some of our students, a lot of our students, we want them to be interested in what they're doing to kind of decrease that apathy a little bit. So when we look at this is our baseline data. We have yet to compare it to anything yet. This is just from the first report card. So you can kind of see where we're at. We want to see that 80% of our kids can do these things most or all of the time.
This is like the first time we're all seeing this, so I think maybe a few minutes to look it over to see if we have any questions.
Okay.
It seems pretty typical, right? I mean, there's nothing throughout here, like everything is pretty on.
I think for baseline data, it's you know, it's okay. And we, you know, as we work through this and we have things that we do along the way, we talk about each one of these characteristics identified per month. And so we really focus on those. So we have yet to focus on all of them 5 months in. So we will be addressing all of them 1 month at a time. So I'm hoping that next report card we'll see some growth.
So the goal is for each of these boxes to be over 80%. Am I understanding that
Correct,
right?
yeah.
For, okay.
And these are teachers identifying their kids using this information on the report card.
So we really want to see those first two bars
Higher.
higher and the last two reduced.
Correct.
Okay.
I want to,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I want to go back to the first page and just
Okay.
see if you could like kind of ground us in what we're looking at, just your interpretation, and if we're on, you know, do you feel this is on the mark toward that first goal of 80% being above grade level?
You know, honestly, I think if you just look at this fast switch data, I think there's some work to do.
Okay.
Once you triangulate and look at multiple pieces of data for every student, I think you would find that we are on that pace to be really close to that 80%. So page 3. This is our SABRS data, and this is the second part to our second goal. We would like to see 80% of our students identified as no risk for academic behaviors on the SABRS social emotional screener. And so as you can see, this is trend data, so you can see from 2021, we're at 79% of our students who are, these are teachers took this assessment for the kids, based on the kids. So we're at 79%.
So this data is from last school year. Is that correct? 2022?
That's longitudinal data, and so it starts, I think the first year is
So
20.
she's looking at that right there.
Oh, yeah, I think this, because this SABRS data, I believe this is the 22-23 school year, so that last one that you're
Oh.
seeing.
Just didn't fit in there.
Oh.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then I don't know how much you've seen this, but these are, we do this from K to 12 with all of our students. And at the younger grades, it's just it's a list of questions about internalizing and externalizing behaviors of students and their social emotional health and wellness. As the kids get older, so starting in, and it depends on the school, but in 3rd or 4th grade, there's also one where the kids do the same one, and then we
I
compare
remember
those.
that. So 79%, what was the measurement again? What are we
80%.
measuring?
This is social emotional learning.
Thank you.
So these are good percentages. What
Yeah,
I
we're
can
pretty
say.
proud of these.
Yeah.
So like what we do with the below the line is we look at who these children are.
I see.
And we create small groups based on the assessment, based on the screener. And then we try to identify what specific skill or that they need, and our counselors create small groups for those children. So we use this as to intervene in certain ways.
Okay, I'm finally like understanding this. So this is every season. So
Yeah.
that previous one was the fall, and then this was the winter. That's really interesting. And then spring was 80. And I wonder if we're able to, I mean, it's all really close numbers, so it probably doesn't matter, but are we able to understand what's happening there to where between fall and winter, we have that uptick? Like why, what are we doing that
Differently.
kids are happier?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good question. And some of it is, yeah, that's a good question. It could be so many different things.
Mhm.
So if we turn to the next page, is our third goal, is that we take a very aggressive goal that 80% of Sandhill schools, students will attend 95% of school. That's 1 day absent a month. And we're falling short on this goal. But however, we have seen some definite increases after Christmas time, where we are definitely meeting with a lot of families in person and trying to problem solve with them, and then provide them some opportunities to get to school, whatever that barrier may be. We've also provided challenges throughout the school, getting students to really buy into being at school. So we are seeing some increases in the last couple months.
So if I read this correctly, then about 12% of your population is in school less than 80% of the time?
Correct.
Okay.
What kinds of things did did some of the families identify as to why the barriers for them to come to school?
My family's talked about a lot of transportation concerns. Maybe there's only one car per family and one member has to go to work. Illnesses is a big one. And then just a variety of reasons. Perhaps there needs to be some coaching around the importance of being at school. And then that last one is not on my goals, but I didn't want to take up all the time.
So this last one, tell me what ODR is?
So that's an office disciplinary referral form.
Oh.
So this is our behavioral data.
Okay.
Basically what it shows is that about 82-83% of our kids are benefiting from our tier 1 interventions for all of school. And so 80 to 80, whatever that comes out to, is 0 to 1 ODR per month.
Well, that tells me it's working. Is that what it tells you? Okay.
Well, what do you think is making that work?
I think it's the consistency with some, our PBIS, how we've really established clear expectations for students in all parts of the building. Hopefully we've communicated well with our staff on how to follow what our system is for addressing behaviors. But as you can see in there, there's a red line. There's some students who need additional layers of support. And so that's always there too.
Is that 6 or more just in the whole year, or 6 or more ODRs in that year?
It's the year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I said month earlier, sorry.
Okay.
Very good.
Good
Okay.
work, good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Elementary, you've got Christina and Jessica.
Hello. Last time I was sick, so you get to hear my voice this time, so I wanted to present. So we're going to talk about our math goal. I know last time Jessica was here, we had our WIN team come and talk about reading, so we wanted to focus on math today. As you can see, our goal is for 80% of students to meet or exceed their projected growth in FastBridge Screener by the end of June. Then you look over at the table and it breaks it down by grade level. So you can see as a whole school, we're only currently at 17%, but our second grade's at 26% for growth. Looking at this data, we really wanted to look at previous years to see how it compared from fall to winter. So I know it's a little small. Are you able to zoom in a little bit on those? Thank you. Appreciate that. So our early math is from K1. They take this test, and that line straight across is the benchmark. So our goal is to get those students to their projected goals, and it doesn't have the projected goals on here. It just has the benchmark, but you can see those students that are below right now from early math, and then to A math is 2nd through 5th grade. They take that test, and if you scroll over to the longitudinal side, there we go. So looking at this, it shows from the previous year, 2021 school year. Looking at fall, we were 6% different than we are now, starting at the fall. And then at winter, we are 3% different from last year. So looking at this, you can really see that we're seeing between fall and winter this growth, not as much as we want to be. Looking forward, we have dug deep into why we want to move forward with this. 2nd grade's having good success. They're working really good together. Our win, we want to focus on doing more win time with our math next year to work on these tiered levels. And we also are looking at, instead of doing their projected growth, on having that benchmark be that goal. We want them to be at grade level and set those higher standards. The projected goal is great. We just want those students to be where they need to at grade level. On the bottom for action steps, we're going to reflect on our Tier 1 instruction. So that's our core that everybody gets with the data and standards. Upcoming PDs for UDL for every student to get what they need, and for WIDA standards to be involved with it. And we'll continue with our data dives. Our team's doing great work on diving into the reading right now, but we want to get to math here shortly, and really next year dive deep into it. But as far as this year, we're just going to keep looking closely at the instructions and tiered what they can do in their classrooms.
What is UDL?
Universally designed.
Oh, okay.
For learning.
Yeah.
Learning, thank you.
I
I
should have known
feel
that.
like I remember from the reading ones that this 3rd grade Belfair was also the straggler, like it is here for the math. Am I remembering that right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what, is that a pandemic influence? What's up with that 3rd grade?
I mean, like Jason mentioned, it could be lots of reasons, but that is something that we are kind of looking at closely. It's very interesting when we look, not necessarily at our math data, but when we look at our reading data especially. Our 2nd grade cohort is working at higher levels instructionally than our 3rd grade cohort. So it leads us to believe that yes, they didn't get that foundational piece in kindergarten that they needed. So we are beefing up our core 1 instruction in those foundational areas in 3rd grade, and we are seeing some success. We talked about that last
Yeah,
time at our.
yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's such a lofty goal, and then it's really sad to see
It's not good.
it fall so short.
Yes, I agree. And, historically, we're not making the gains that we should be. So we really have to look closely at what we're doing and how we're doing it. Like Christine said, we're trying to model the work that we're doing currently and focusing on currently in ELA. And next year, we're moving that into math as well. So looking at our master schedule to ensure that we have designated time that is super focused on those foundational skill sets, and making sure that our teachers know how to read that data, examine it, use it to drive their instruction. Good.
And like
So-
Jason said, it's only one data point.
It is
so
one data point. It is one data point. But we have work
we
ahead
have
of us.
growth, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not blind to that.
Right. No, I know you guys are in it. Does any of it have to do with, or I'm just curious how subject matter, like what are they learning in 3rd grade versus 2nd grade in math?
For math,
Yeah, what's the?
so, good question. So usually, from kindergarten to 2nd grade, the focus really is addition and subtraction. It gains in the standard, it goes within 5, within 10, within 20.
Right.
The rubber hits the road in 3rd grade, and they're looking at multiplication and division.
Yeah.
So if they don't have those conceptual concepts nailed down in those, primary grades, you get into that division and multiplication, and they struggle. So it's really finding that fine line of how to ensure that they're getting that grade level standard, that they're getting that, they're engaging in it, but how do we support and scaffold them up to ensure that they understand it conceptually?
So on your sidebar here, you were looking at students to meet or exceed their projected growth by the
Yes.
end of June of 2022?
Yes. So every 23, sorry, 2023.
okay, okay.
Typo there, it's okay. And honestly, just knowing education too, coming back after winter break, that's where you really see that growth go up. I can't predict the future, but I know that our data is not showing where we want to be, and we're going to keep working. And I know our teachers know that too, so.
When was the winter assessment? Like
Right when they came back from break.
Okay.
Like the first week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that I think the growth that we've seen too around this is in adults, honestly, really taking ownership. And we're having to stand here in front of you and show you something that's not great. So this is what it is, and it's our responsibility to take ownership and change our ways. If we continue to do the same thing, that's the definition of insanity. So we've got to work at this, and we've got to really look at what we are doing. I know that at the district level, they are working on supporting us by coming through and doing walkthroughs. We're looking at core instruction. This week, we're pretty proud of ourselves. We started getting our some learning walks going within our school so that our teachers can glean from each other. We're hoping that the hard work and the reflection we're doing is going to pay off. It may not be right this second, but I have hope that we'll get there.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we'll look forward to what you have at the end of the school year.
Us too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Hawkins Middle School with Robert and Kevin.
So start with Hawkins Middle School. Anytime we always look at data and review our progress, we always look back at our mission and vision about what we're trying to accomplish. And so at Hawkins Middle School, our vision is that all students are feeling safe, valued, and nurtured, allowing them to find a personal and academic success in an inclusive school community that challenges them to grow into a productive and positive citizen. And our mission and how we're doing that, we're providing an optimistic and safe learning environment for all, using quality research-based curriculum that is aligned with state standards, and being responsive to student learning needs through common formative assessments that inform our daily instruction and through MTSS interventions. These are tied directly to our goals that we set out, and two of the goals that I want to talk about today is, number one, our math goal for a whole school, where our goal this year is that 80% of our students would meet or exceed their projected growth in math from fall to spring according to our FastBridge assessments. And below the goal, you can kind of see our evidence so far just from September to January, our fall to winter growth. And although we're not showing the 80% growth, we are seeing significant more growth this year than we did previously last year. With 7th grade really getting the closest with 70% growth in 7th grade. What we need to do next piece on this is to really look at the kids that are getting the daily interventions, the win time that we're doing this year, and see, are those the ones that are seeing the highest growth? And if they're not seeing highest growth from those interventions, then what are we doing in those interventions to make it stronger? We're not necessarily using FastBridge as the gauge that. We're using more classroom-based assessments to determine the success of our interventions at this time, because they're closer tied to the actual standards that they're teaching in the classroom at that moment. And with those evidences, we're seeing a lot of growth from the students that are in the interventions. We just need to get tied back to the FastBridge and connect them.
Can you explain what the different colored bars represent?
Very similar to what Jason described, is the red is the ones that are making flat growth, not really much growth.
Okay.
Yellow is some growth. Green is normal growth, and blue would be above normal growth.
Okay, thank you.
When the student doesn't, slides backwards, is that reflected in a flat, or is that reflected at all?
Have
any growth?
It's in this chart, it'd be reflected in the red area. Mm-hmm. So they're not making any growth. And I did a poll of all the students that were in the red, just to kind of see what that looked like, and not many of them were like dropping.
Okay.
Most of them were just within a point or two right there, which is negligible. And then as I sat with the teachers looking at the students on the list, talking about, well, why was this one actually, to be honest, the ones that are in the red tended to be more of our kids that were on the higher end, not even in interventions.
They've already.
You know, and so you can see a lot of the kids like in, let's say, 6th grade that are in doing 7th grade math, struggling, and feeling, and it looks like they're not making much progress at all, when they are just not as much progress as the average student we've been making.
Yeah.
But they're already in an accelerated math.
Exactly. Yeah, they're doing accelerated work.
Okay.
They're just not making as high progress as they
Right.
would be at grade level work.
That's an interesting nuance.
And then the other goal, do you want to speak to that one?
I got it, yeah.
Okay.
So our second goal was talking about organization and really getting back to post-COVID, what it looks like to be a student. And so we're using AVID strategies to improve organizational skills and as measured through organizational rubrics. So we all know, like, if you don't give kids some kind of incentive, that kids won't do it. So this is tied to our school-wide behavior supports, our AVID instructional strategies, the PAWS scores, we rotate the cores per trimester that are scoring the planners, as well as scoring like their notebooks and what those should look like. And so what we've seen is through surveys that kids actually have stated, if you want to scroll down, then I don't have to stare at my paper. The kids took a panorama survey, and they took it in the fall, and they took it again in the wintertime. And in their own words, how often do you come to class prepared? According to our students, 82% of our kids, 85, sorry, quick math, says frequently or almost all the time, and that's a 10% increase since the fall. And then the second question there, how much effort do you put into trying to pay attention to teachers in the classroom? Okay, again, kids saying 50 plus 25, sorry, 75%, it's a 13% increase since the fall. So we're seeing some success in kids actually feeling like they're better organized and can pay attention to teachers in classrooms.
And directly tied to the surveys the kids did, kind of seeing not just about how they're doing in class, how they engage with their teachers, how they engage with each other. Every single category with our students from fall to winter showed a markedly increase. We were very, very excited to see how much more the students are self-identifying as an increase in their own abilities at school.
Yeah, and it was 5 to 10% or more in every single category.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty significant increase in 4 months.
Yeah, right,
So.
right. Good work.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lexi is coming up next for James Taylor.
So we had 3 primary goals at James Taylor, and the first was student ownership in their student learning plans. So through teacher conversations, they are being now very intentional as to their monthly goals for the students and their families in creating their individualized intervention plans should they need them. So if a student's falling behind, they create a plan with that student and their family to get back on track. Currently, we're seeing 50% of our students in James Taylor on track or ahead of earning their 6 credits per year, and 40% of our MLL students are on track or ahead. And that is in part from our second goal, was increasing credit acquisition. So right now, as to this year, students could take engineering and technology with robotics or digital photography. So we had 5 students in James Taylor earn a half a credit as of today, and 4 students from James Taylor earned another half a credit of digital photo as of today. So that puts us up to 50% or 57% of those kids closing their gap
Nice.
in credit acquisition. Next, or after spring break, we're adding another digital photo because the need was so great, and a neuroscience and society class, which allows students to earn a half a credit of psychology and a half a credit of lab science. So we're going to see this growth even further by the end of the year, probably closer to 70 or 80% is our hope. And also tied to James Taylor, we have our evening school program. We hover around 15-ish students, give or take. Since October, we have 3 newcomers who have been here for 9 months or less. One of our students has been in the country for a month and is learning the English alphabet and starting to write basic sentences, so we're super excited for her. 3 students are moms, so every now and then you'll see a toddler at their feet playing. And one of those moms was on track not to graduate this year, actually not attending school in September, and she is going to graduate on time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And a lot of these goals, they actually pair with our HomeLink goals. And again, it's really that intentional conversation with students and their teachers. And if they're on intervention number 2 or 3, they're meeting with the counselor and myself, and we're having very serious conversations around attendance and academic progress and what really needs to happen to be successful in an online environment or in an evening school environment. For HomeLink, 53% of our students are on track or ahead. 63% of our MLLs are on track or ahead of earning their 6 credits this year, closing that gap. They also get to take those engineering classes and photography classes. So we have 2 HomeLink students earning half a credit as of today in engineering, 4 earning digital photo, and they'll be able to take those neuroscience and psych classes and the other digital photo come spring break. And then also to help our math teacher, Christine York, is piloting an art class, which will be reinforcing the algebra standards that are on the SBA come springtime, and hopes to make that connection for kids so they do a little bit better and understand it. And then, yeah, we're just really trying to be intentional with our conversations and put more student ownership. And because of that, we all know attendance can be an issue at ALE. 80% of our students in total of both programs have been at school greater than 80% of the days, which is a huge increase over last year.
Wow.
Good
We're
job.
pretty excited.
Awesome. I know, I love hearing it all.
You're blowing me away over here.
So just to make sure everyone knows in the room, MLL is the new
Multilingual learners, yes.
Yep. And then how many students do you have in James Taylor?
We have 60 between daytime and evening. We've got a couple ready to graduate, so we're going to move 2 into their spots that are on the wait list, and
Nice.
and that's grades 9 through 12. And then at HomeLink for grades 9 through 12, we have about 78 or 80.
And then what
Yeah.
differentiates, especially when they're taking those same classes, the joined, like digital photography, how is a HomeLink, what does it look like for a HomeLink student to participate in that versus
They
James
drive in
Taylor?
and they join our class at the
So they
STEAM
just
portable.
come in, okay. But they're just enrolled through the HomeLink program?
Yes, so it's an enrichment class, so they're taking it in addition to what
Okay.
they're already taking to close that gap.
Okay, nice.
You said you had 70 HomeLink students?
78 HomeLink high
78?
school students.
Wow.
Because HomeLink is grades 1 through 12.
Wow.
Right, there's homeschooled HomeLink students younger
Mm-hmm.
than that. That's a lot. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
We've grown.
I was curious if you, I know it's not necessarily related to this, but if you were wanting to share with my fellow board members the health sciences, like news update, or the work that you've been doing in that arena.
Sure. So Mason General contacted me with my CTE director hat, begging for programs because they're seeing such a rapid increase in the need for healthcare services, and it will be increasing by about 30% for the next 10 years. So they came to North Mason, really seeing a need in their community, to see what we could do to help them out a little bit. So we have been in conversations to look at a multiple of health science pathway options, and one of the big ones is medical lab technician. They're very shorthanded, and if we do add it, pending student interest in all of those things, we would be one of the only schools in the area, and we would hopefully articulate and have some dual credit with Clover Park because they are the closest community college that offers it. It's a 2-year program, so we would start students on that pathway, but we are strategically looking at introduction courses so they could go to that pathway, perhaps go into home health care aid, which there's a huge need right now, and kids can work at 18 right out of high school doing that, or they can go to our partners at West Sound Tech and do any of those medical careers if they would like to do that also. So we're trying to be intentional, so by the classes we choose, we can help our kids funnel into multiple career pathways.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool work.
That's emotionally awesome. Like, I'm not even going to talk because I'll just start crying. But that everything that you just presented was a lot to take in all at once. It was really great.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you. And then we have the high school with Chad and Steve here to present.
Hello. Thanks for having us here. In November, the high school presented our 2 main goals this year. The first one was the continued implementation of the AVID program. AVID, again, is Career and College Readiness program. Middle school talked on it. We're excited that middle school kids are going to start coming to the high school with AVID skills. So we're continuing that push. But tonight we want to touch on our credit recovery program we've been building since first day of school this year. We knew there was going to be a huge need. When school was shut down, a number of kids either failed or had incompletes, and we had to help those kids so they could cross the finish line at graduation. So it's the first year we've systematically built a credit recovery system where we have a credit recovery class during the day for students. Never had that before. So it's been a little clunky, and we're getting better. At the start of the year, we have a graduation specialist staff member who started with seniors that had incompletes, and she was bird dogging them. And she was going back to the teacher of record, or if that teacher wasn't there, the department head of that department, asking, hey, what does this kid need to fill in the gaps? And it was extra work for teachers. They had to provide packets or assignments or projects. So in the spirit of monitoring and adjusting, I meet with our Olympic League high school principals once a month. So I've been leaning on them this year because most of them had a credit recovery program built. So talked with them, worked with Lexi and James Taylor, and we've worked with Edgenuity, the computer program they use at James Taylor, and we've adopted that. They gave us a good deal on that for the rest of the year, and students are using that now in their credit recovery class, and we're having more success with that. When we presented in November, we had changed 24 incompletes to credit acquired, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve to give you numbers to date.
Thanks. This isn't really a very complicated chart, so I can get through this one. So we had 24 when we came last time, and right now it's 172. So 172 kids have changed from an incomplete to gaining the credit in the class, which is great. We don't have February on there yet, but it's already plus 20, so we know it's going to do really well again. It should be right up there with January. Autumn, the graduation specialist, is doing a good job of tracking all of these. You'll see December was a little bit low. Obviously, that's the holiday, so we're only there a couple weeks. But this is per month. So October, we had the packets kind of chasing it down. What can we do? Well, this isn't going to work. November, we got a little bit better, and then right around December is when we added Edgenuity, and you can see it take off from there. And now they do a good, our counselors work with our graduation specialist for the criteria to get into credit recovery and to make sure that program is growing. So this week we were talking about, okay, for third trimester, who can we get in there? And it's mostly just juniors and seniors, because that's obviously who are closest to the stage, and sophomores have enough time to retake a class if they need it. It could be case by case. A sophomore could be there. Let's say they failed a couple classes, but they want to do West Sound Tech. Well, you have to be you got to be on track to graduate to go there. So we could give you some credit recovery and you could be on track to go learn how to weld now. So it's a great tool that we have that will help all of our kids, not just a couple of them. So
This number then represents juniors and seniors.
all of our students, yeah, all students. Like I said, there could be a couple sophomores mixed in there, but mostly it's the juniors and seniors.
So it's 172 grade changes, so it's 172 classes, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Nice.
Would have
Those
been
are all-
incomplete or F on their transcript.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
What does it look like like, what does it actually look like for a student? If I am coming into this class and I need to make up whatever, my American Lit class, how does Ingenuity help with that?
Well, it helps so they can sit down, and if it depends when they failed the class or got an incomplete also, because there was different rules during the COVID shutdown as compared to what we're facing now with grades. So with the shutdown, you could essentially get like an I or you pass the class. There was really not a lot in between. So if they had the I, then they can go back and make up a section of that course to be able to pass the thing. And then on their transcript, it goes down as a P because you have to keep the previous thing on there too. So to answer, they would show up, Autumn would meet with them, all right, I think you said American Lit. We're gonna go, you gotta get this American Lit class down. So she'd show them the class, and then if they have a IEP, the case manager can help with Edgenuity to set that course up so all their design instruction is dialed in. The same with our ML students, our multi-language learners. Those teachers can work and we can translate it to make sure that they understand exactly what's going on. And then the teacher and the grad specialist are in there every day, and you can track the credit really quickly on Edgenuity to make sure they're gaining the ground. And some of them have worked with other teachers if maybe you were really close to passing but you didn't do the final for some reason, you left. So they can go back and work with that teacher and, hey, the teacher said you got to wrap this project up. Let's go. Let's get this going. So it's different for every kid. There's a lot going on in that room. It's really cool.
Steve, isn't it Edgenuity, and actually, Lexi, you might even be able to answer this better, but they can test out of certain portions of it too, so it's mastery as well. If you can master this part, it's not like you have to do the whole thing all over again.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's part of the criteria. That's based on the grade. Like if you've taken part of the class, you can do that test out of it. Yeah.
So they are taking this class in the midst of their school year, and then I'm just kind of wondering how, so it might not take a whole trimester, it sounds like.
Well, they can do multiple
Yeah.
classes during that credit
Oh.
recovery period.
Most of the students in there need multiple classes made up, not just one. If you were just making up one, we can probably get you there. But if it's multiple classes,
I see.
so that's kind of a little meat on the bone for that class is you got to get 2 to make up the room. So you get 0.5, that's one class. You got to make up another one to really gain ground here. So
And then, does it not, because they're being pulled out of, class, like whatever class they might have taken to do this class, how do you my brain wants to be like, are they still behind because they are now, you know what I mean, like?
no, they're not falling further behind by being in it because you would take the elective, which they have a lot of room for elective credits. So we would take one of the electives, and that Edgenuity takes that, or the credit recovery takes that spot.
So they go.
Oh, they get a credit for being in credit recovery.
When they make up the credit, not just for being there. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why we make it so you have to work to be there.
Okay.
You can't just show up and get 0.5 for it. No, you have to earn the credit in there.
I see,
So
I
that's,
see.
and then if you don't do that, you're not going to be in their next track. We have a different system for
They
that.
earn the credit to be there, and then they're also changing their a credit from the past.
Filling in the hole they have.
Yeah, okay.
That's really awesome. I mean, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work for them.
Not just for them, but for the staff, for you guys. I mean, that's.
Folks are doing a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big hole for the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, shutdown is a big deal. But even last year, when if a kid had symptoms or something, we had to send so many kids home last year. It was so difficult, and so this is helping.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good job, you
All right.
guys.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm impressed. Oh, yeah.
Is that the last of them? Okay. Well, thank you guys all for being here for our study session. I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn it at 6:14.
Do you have anything to say about that?
Do we have any comments? Go ahead. Great.
I had a quick one. My kids gotten to kind of go through the home link and elementary and in the middle school, and he's a struggler you know, but watching what you guys have all come up and said that, and just knowing the school system, I'm not sure if I'm the only one in here that has a kid that's actually like embedded in the middle of it right now. But Ann has gone through the COVID. So COVID hit a lot of different things. I won't go into that, but all the struggles and the blind expectations that you guys had to like set it with this older curriculum expectations, and then you're like, wait a minute, everything's different. We've got kids that don't know anything when they're coming in like they used to. The momentum was cut off, and then you guys are like, okay, we're still cheering, we're still going for it. And then we've got the not making everything new. I wanted to, it really made it seem like it is accelerated more. Like you guys are moving faster because you weren't reinventing the wheel. You were willing to go out, like go to, where's the other one? I'm trying to go fast, so I'm talking fast. But like Olympic, where you went out and you got the credit makeup. That's awesome. Like not trying to just do,
Reinvent.
you know, trying to be like, oh, let's make it all new so that we can just have all new stuff and people can learn from us. You know, you just went from that, and then, but you guys have all made it your own and done it with like an amazing group of unique teachers and kids, and it's like super exciting. So I'm also like emotional, and James Taylor has a whole new like, that's amazing, you know. So all of it though, I made notes, so I was looking back here, but you're finding what works, making it your own. Yeah, it just, I'm totally impressed. That's very cool. So thank you for your presentation.
Do you guys have anything to add?
We sped up version of it.
Great job.
What
Yeah.
about you, Morgan?
Good job, thank you.
I'm impressed.
Can I say something really quick? Please. I just want to say these, again, are an amazing group of people. And when you said people are working really hard, they're working really hard.
Yeah.
And so just you guys, you're doing awesome. So
It shows.
Thank you. All right, meeting adjourned. All right, it's 6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Before we get started here, get rolling, I will entertain a motion that we approve the agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda.
Perfect. Let's call for a vote. All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Student board member?
I say aye.
Perfect. Motion passes. Jackie, do we have any public comments on the agenda items? None. Okay. So student board member comments is up first. And we don't have Audrey here tonight. That's too bad.
Yes, Audrey's off doing a sporting event right now.
Fun.
So, there's not a whole lot as far as what's going on at the school right now. We had Tolo, which was a huge success, which is our mid-year dance and fundraiser. We have some new clubs starting up, namely Cornhole Club. They're going to do a competition, a fundraiser competition during lunches here in, I believe, 3 weeks. So, yeah, so that'll be fun to see how it goes. We're thinking about maybe going up against Clahowya if it gets big enough.
They have their own club?
They have a cornhole club too, and they do tournaments too. So we're gonna talk to Bonnell, our sports director, about it, and maybe see if we can go up against them for stuff. We also had some students, mostly myself, but we had 2 other students testify on a couple of bills in person down in Olympia.
All right.
I testified in person for House Bill 1487, establishing a Student Bill of Rights, in person for a school safety capital grant, Let's see. And then me and Audrey testified for Senate Bill 5408, providing funding to help ninth graders succeed when they get to high school. And then 1692, which is this really cool bill that would create student advisory groups for each legislative district. So students, it would be put together by the legislature. There would be room for the board members, 5 board members, student board members, and then 5 other students just in the district from 16 to 21. So that'll be cool, and then it'll codify my group with WASDA, the Student Rep Network, into law, which will be very cool.
Is that,
So
is
I
that a
went down
Senate
there.
bill? Is it a Senate bill or a House bill?
That's House Bill 1692.
Okay.
So, and I'm pleased to say that just passed out of the House Government and Tribal Relations Committee yesterday.
Wow.
And yeah, and then we're getting excited for legislative conference. I am going to be speaking. I'll be one of the speakers at the conference. Me and 2 other students, so I'll be down there speaking, representing North Mason.
Right.
And then the student board members have meetings with the governor, lieutenant governor, and the superintendent of public instruction the next day on the Hill. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So that is all I have for the student report.
Well, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Here, here.
So we are, thank you, Morgan. We're at the consent agenda, which is an agenda that the administration recommends that we approve as presented, or we can modify it if we so choose. Do I, hear any motions on, regarding the consent agenda?
I can't make a motion, but I would like to make a recommendation that we discuss the under F policy review, policy 3230.
Yeah.
Students do have some concerns about that, so if we could pull that to the side and talk about that would be
Would you
appreciated.
like us to pull it out of the consent agenda and go ahead on the consent agenda, or just discuss it before voting?
I would recommend doing it separately,
Okay. I think
but
we've had
it's up
some-
to you.
I'm fine with that. Do I hear a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda aside from the search of student and student privacy policy?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as given minus the item that we just discussed.
Great, okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, perfect. All right, so policy 3230, searches of students and student privacy. I think it would help ground us first if maybe, Lisa, could you give an overview of the changes to this policy and why it's before us today?
I'm going to ask Robert to, Robert has dealt with this so much, and he was the one who kind of presented to the rest of our group what the differences were between
Sure.
previous and that, so if you don't mind, Robert?
Yeah, sure.
Lucky you're still here.
What's the question?
Could you kind of give us an overview on policy 3230?
Is that the one on searches and seizures?
It is.
Yeah.
And so I believe the new policy is looking at some of the Supreme Court cases recently that have made some changes to how we look at searches and seizures in the schools. As you know, the police have to have probable cause in order to do any searches of individuals, which is an actual high mark for needing to search somebody. In a school setting, what the Supreme Court has always decided for quite a while has been that we only have to have reasonable suspicion that a student is engaged with something that we need to investigate, and that would allow us to search personal belongings such as backpacks, notebooks, individual themselves, and things like that, within restrictions, of course. Things like lockers, we don't really need that because they're actually property of the district, but if we go into a locker to search, we couldn't, of course, then go into a backpack without that probable cause that's inside there. that this has been kind of the law of the land for last couple decades for administrators in doing searches and seizures with students. I've always operated with what I call the +1, where one rumor of something from somebody isn't enough really to give me that probable, that reasonable suspicion, but that other thing that comes in that kicks, oh, okay, you know, that connected to that gives me something that I'm suspicious about now to engage. What has changed in the new language is more of the student acceptance of it. So if, let's say I have a student that comes in that I need to, that I have suspicion maybe having something that I need to search for, the first thing I'm going to do is, okay, I believe this is what you have. I'm requesting I do a search. If they refuse to do a search, then at that time I need to call a parent and engage with them around that, and then request that the parent come in to be with us for that search.
That's how it was in the past, or that's how?
That's how it is now. That's how it would. That's how this current one changes from our previous one.
Because previously, what would we do?
Previously, we wouldn't necessarily have to ask permission. We would just say we're going to search. Now, in practice, reality-wise, we're not going to force a search for a kid. If they're going to say, no, I want to talk to my parents, well, of course, we're going to bring the parents involved. But now this is actually
Codified.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can say no and request that their parents be a part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other part we talked about is that just the subtle differences now about like phones and
That has been one that's been tricky ever since cell phones have been involved with students, because in some court cases they've tied phone searches similar to what we do with backpacks. In other cases, we couldn't touch a phone at all. What has now come about is that we have to have even higher. The phone is actually considered much more private information with the student than anything else, and it is not recommended that we do searches of phones without parental involvement, without other supervision involved with it. It has a much higher bar of the search issues.
right, and they were saying even at the high school they try to stay away from phones completely because it's getting into areas that are
they don't want to get
At this point, we ask for the student, okay, we want to show it that. They say, no, I'm not showing my phone. Okay, fine. Put it aside, and then we just get parents involved.
Okay. Yeah, Morgan, do you want to share any concerns that you?
So the concern with the searches part of the policy that the students had is it's very short, it's very brief. Is all the stuff that is crossed out, is that going to be removed from the policy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The biggest thing that they were concerned about, since it is being removed, is that there's not much to this policy. It says, in order to maintain order, discipline, if they have reasonable suspicion, in accordance with the law, authorized individuals are allowed to search whatever. And they're concerned about that is they want more clarification on what is that, what is the law. Because if it just says, if they have a suspicion, if they legally can, they want to know, a big thing is they wanted to know more details and essentially know their rights when it comes to these searches and seizures and what's going on. Whether that's to hide something, I don't know, but that is what their concerns were about this this part of the policy.
I think, Morgan, if you were to look up the two legal references there at the end of the policy, those are the two latest legal references that caused all of these changes in this policy.
Is that the CFRs?
Yeah, the two CFRs.
I think, though Morgan brings up an interesting point about education around this. Like, does the average Joe student know and understand this policy, and what do we do, or what is our obligation to educate them on this?
I'm asking the question, in your school handbook, is this information?
It is part of our school handbook. We don't have anything specific that we do to give students a sense of what that really means. I actually used to teach a class as a principal that talked about students' rights and responsibilities, and that was included looking at student civil rights within the school setting. I know that in our 8th grade classroom, when they talk about Bill of Rights, they do talk about searches and seizures and what that looks like with students in the classroom. You might remember from 8th grade.
I remember a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just at the 8th grade level, and that was in relation to studying U.S. history and the Bill of Rights.
Do they get a student handbook at the beginning of every year, or just when they, okay?
And it's posted online as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know at the high school, they actually have to take a little quiz on their handbook too.
I kind of remember doing that. I feel like it would be worth, and we can follow up with Dana, but some language on this in the handbook, just describing in pretty straightforward terms what their rights are.
Yeah, I think their big thing is they just want to see it laid out more than leaving it so open-ended.
So the current statement for you isn't sufficiently delimited or precise, and precision is needed here because rights are at issue?
Yes, in some ways, because they want to know these things. They want to, because they're concerned, is they felt like it was open-ended, because it doesn't state in the policy what exactly they can and can't do. They felt like it was open-ended. So
when a book is written, that, like a guidebook is written, you go to the references at the end of that book, and that's where you find, well, and a lot of times those things are per pages and whatever, but your references are your site. You would go, okay, this is really broad and I don't understand, but I go to the references and this is where I find my information. And that's kind of what I think, I mean, because it's so specific, and just this one, and I know that people really want to know, we could put it in there, but since the references already have this
I think it's just one
reference,
thing to be in our policies and, documented here for people. I think, a 7th grade student, 6th grade student coming into Hawkins is not going to go to like the district website and read this like policy and know. And then if they have a teacher that's going to ask them, can I see your phone? How do they know? There's like a power imbalance there. They may be like, oh no, F off, I don't want you to see my phone. But, some folks may feel inclined to just do whatever is told to them without knowing that they can ask for their parents' involvement in that.
I guess what I was saying, that all of, like if we did this with all of them, to put it all in, we'd end up having a book like this. But in this specific one, because it's so sensitive, I guess, adding a little something on there wouldn't be like
I imagine there's something already kind of in there.
What I'd have to look at is the procedure, because, as you know, the policy, that's from WASDA, that's what we don't have a lot of adaptability to, but the procedure we do, and so we could look at that. But what I'm also hearing is that we need something in student language to be put in the student handbooks as well.
yeah, because we're dealing with the Code of Federal Regulations. Half the kids don't even know how to read a legal document, if we're being honest. There's probably only 5 kids in the entire school that would be able to sort through that and understand. Even if you looked it up, I looked up chapter 34 of the CFRs, part 99.5, and that's not even the entire reference. It's just the chapter heading for the bill, and then it breaks it down even more and even more. So I think just something condensed, something straightforward that explains it in layman's terms would be very beneficial.
And we can look at the handbooks and see what's already in there, and it doesn't need to be modified.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that This is a great educational opportunity. All the tyranny is around the world, and we've got students that want their rights written out and are questioning about us. What a great behavior to reinforce. So I think that what I've heard sounds reasonable, and I think there's a teaching opportunity here. So I'm really very pleased that our kids are complaining about their rights. What a great thing, even if they were excessive about it. What an American excess. Anyway, I think that this is a good idea, and we should do something reasonable to reach them.
And then there is one other part.
Yeah.
I know you guys want to have a short meeting, I'm sorry.
No, I think I know what this is, that's fine.
But it's the last paragraph under student privacy. A lot of the students were concerned. Well, some of them were thrilled because they can check them as soon as they turn 18, they can check themselves out of school, which they were thrilled about that. They wanted me to actually thank you guys.
Why are you telling all the students all about this?
I need to. It's part of the job. So may want to keep an eye on that because I know there will be students taking advantage of it. But the other thing is that second half going on about school records and especially medical records, a lot of the students were concerned, not especially for themselves, but for their friends, because some of these things are life-changing. They can, drugs, alcohol, even mentions abortions. These are such controversial, life-changing things, and they're concerned. Most of them wouldn't hide it from their parents, but they're concerned about the kids who would hide it from their parents, because these are life-changing and potentially family and generational changing decisions these kids as young as 13 could be making that could make or break their lives, or depends on how you look at it, the life of someone else. And they're worried that without parental support, that there are, yes, I know there are some exceptions, but without parental support and students, parents not being able to support their students and help them through this, could mentally take a huge toll
I just
on
want
these
to
kids.
say, to be clear, because we kind of had a discussion about this particular section before the meeting a little bit. And just to be clear about what we're talking about here, there is this new addition, and I try to, and it's wholly new to this policy, and I think folks could interpret it as the district writing this and putting this in, and stating that it's something that's coming from us. State law, you go into the 18, at age 18, they're legal adults, so they can, check out their own school records. It goes on to say that between 16 and 18, if you're legally emancipated, you have the same rights as an 18-year-old, and it says students over 14 years of age have confidentiality rights in their records, indicating that they've been tested or treated for a sexually transmitted disease, meaning at 14, they don't have to disclose that to their parents. Students 13 or older have confidentiality rights in records regarding drug, alcohol, mental health treatment, and they do have confidentiality rights in family planning or abortion records. I know just from where I work, and it's something I learned recently, is, at age 13 in this state, you can have an abortion, you can get birth control without your parents' consent. That is state law, that's not North Mason School District. Whether or not we agree with that is just a whole other matter. I would be curious to know if you knew, Lisa, kind of if this language was in place somewhere else in a different policy and why, it's kind of like brand new to this policy, why we're adding it here.
That's interesting because the emancipation and all of that language that's not new. That's been around for, the 18, being able to check out, none of that's new. So if it was moved from someplace else, I don't know where it was prior to this.
Just hearing
it might have just been right at the
specific
top.
things that have come up, would it be beneficial to just add the words per state law and putting that in there so that there's no conflict where someone thinks that the school is making these brand new, these choices and they're not per the state law? Would it just be, easier to read, or would also direct them to the reference section at the bottom, per state law, maybe adding those in if that's, it sounds like that they were concerned and they want us to change something in the policy or pay attention to something in the policy that we can't.
Yeah.
It says it right in the policy,
Okay, I
state law.
didn't have it up in front of me.
Yeah.
Just-
State
If
law.
it says it already,
It says
I'm
it
just-
at the
then that
beginning,
would
it
be
doesn't say it in
something we
every
don't-
paragraph in that section. And I actually realize now that I misspoke because it looks like it was in the original policy, but it was right at the top. And so it's being struck from the top and moved to the very bottom.
Okay.
So, and kind of expanded a little bit, it looks like.
Yeah, it wasn't up on my screen here,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why.
Are there any other comments from the board about this policy? Okay. John, Eric, no?
No, I'm good. What we're talking about, I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we need a motion?
We would need a motion to pass the policy, yes.
I move that we approve policy 3230 as revised by state and federal law.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Or student vote?
I'm personally going to abstain from this one.
Okay, thank you, Morgan.
Can I mention, that is also a really great thing, not just to bring here, but talk to Dana to get clarification too before any of our meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, so that concludes the consent agenda aspect of our board meeting. We are now at the Hawkins Middle School presentation of robotics.
So I'm really excited to kind of present some of the things we're doing at Hawkins. One of the things that has been a passion of mine was trying to expand our offerings for after-school activities for kids beyond just competitive sports, bringing in the idea of art and robotics and role play and whatever else has student interest and they want to do. And we have a club every single day after school for kids to be able to participate in. And one of them that is really exciting this year is the a robotics club that has really taken off. They're doing robotics, coding, and they're going to actually go into competition here in March. And so the team really wanted to come in and kind of show you what they're doing and what they're working on and what they hope to be showing off. So come on up, kids.
Do we want to move this out of the middle?
If you can, yeah, please.
We can do it.
It's on wheels.
Oh my goodness, what's happening? Do you guys want to introduce yourselves first?
At Hawkins Middle School level.
Oh, just say your name and what grade you're in.
I'm Alan, 7th grade. I'm Elizabeth, 8th grade. I'm your sister Mary, I'm 8th grade.
I'm Samuel, and I'm also in 8th grade.
I'm Jackson, I'm also in 8th grade.
And then technically there's also Gavin and part of our team, but he sadly could not make it tonight.
Okay.
Also 8th grade. Very nice. At the Hawkins Middle School level in Washington State.
Do you want to make it bigger, Jackie, a little bit? Can you zoom in?
Thank you. Teams can either compete in VEX IQ or VEX VCR. Each chose to compete in the VEX IQ and off the grid. The game, field, and challenge are the current VEX field and challenge. Slapshot WTSA conference is in March 22nd to the 25th, 2023. Off the grid finalists will also be presenting in the conference Winning teams will go to the national conference in Leesville, Kentucky. So, oh, wait.
Sorry,
Okay,
guys.
there we go.
Backwards.
Alright, September 2022, TSA club meetings, Tuesday, 3 to 4, November 2022, beginning VEX robotics fabrication off and off the grid. January 2023, students submit videos of working electronics and version of Design Notebook. March 2003, 3-day conference in Seattle. We have done all of them up to March 2023 for the conference.
Cool. All right, so this is our robot. His name is Frederick. He can move. Unfortunately, he does have
Oh no. Yeah.
He moves. That's good.
We saw it. We all saw it.
He moves. I can promise that. He moves on the board. We're just figuring. He can pick up discs and throw them. The discs are going to be about this size when we actually compete.
What version of robot is this?
Gen 2.
What's that?
Gen 2 VEX IQ.
How many different versions did you have to make?
Or not.
A lot of them.
The
picture is not exactly what it looks like here. It did take a lot of trial and error. That design that we first used were not very efficient, and this one we have improved in multiple different ways. You can still see some of the original elements though, like the conveyor belt, and we took the wheel design and just improved it for this guy. He moves forward or back.
Does he just need time to boot up or something?
No, we did originally test him, but unfortunately he does still have some design flaws. We are working on him every single Tuesday after school, sometimes with extra time, or during class periods 3rd and 4th.
Yeah. Nice.
And he does need a few upgrades, unfortunately, for the competition. For the competition, he does use this, and for this, he has to use different obstacles and knock them down from several towers in order to slide them across the mat in order to get a certain amount of points. The team with the highest points will win.
Does it have a name?
Frederick.
Say the full name. Say the full name.
All right. The full name, including all of our initials, is Wagons Chickled Servacum the 86.
Does he have a nickname?
How many students are in the club?
10, but only 6 of us can make it to the competition as a singular team.
Oh, okay, that's regulation.
And there's actually 2 different robotics clubs going on too.
Okay.
There's, this is the TSA group that's doing the robotics and the coding competition. But we also have a Monday night, wait a minute, you guys Monday night or Tuesday night?
We go both, actually.
Okay. We also have a Monday night robotics that is just Lego robotics, and we're trying to get more kids interested in the first robotics, first Lego Robotics League, and we're gonna be meeting with some representative from that the week after winter break, in order to see what more we can do to get more of our kids engaged in that and bring it into the school.
As also, WTSA is a fully, all throughout the competition. It's a full state competition, mostly also national. As you can see, there is a national conference that we did mention, all the way in Louisville, Kentucky. This year it is also held, it is still held at the SeaTac Hotel Doubletree. It's going to be the biggest one yet, about 1,800 different competitors, high school to middle school, and many different things ranging from essays to video game coding and more that we unfortunately do not know. We decided to sign up for 3, was it? We just
signed up for
Dragster, Off the Grid, and VEX IQ Robotics.
Yeah.
What is the difference between VEX IQ, VEX VRC, Off the Grid? What does that mean?
Off the Grid is a architectural house design thing, as you can see right there. Gear sketches were made from my friend Araya, as I cannot really sketch that well. And VEX IQ is, it uses only pieces from the VexIQ, Robot Generation 2, was it? I think so.
It was
2 through 5, you can't use 6 for some reason.
Is this like a company that makes these robot parts or something, or what is
No,
it?
this is a complete, it's like a full thing. If you're getting to high school, you can actually try out, and then they have board meetings like this. It sounds like we did this last year, me and Nadira, and Gavin did too. And it was, last year was just 3 of us. This year we are very fortunate to have 10.
And VexIQ versus Vex VRC, what's that difference?
The difference is the challenges and the parts.
Okay.
And
Did you have a blueprint for that?
We did have a blueprint originally, as you could see from our first design on the presentation, but we did have to keep on improving as it did not work originally.
Okay.
So how long from number 1 to, you said 88 of them?
It took a while.
Okay, so the thing behind the name, he is the H6 because we have had 6 iterations of him, and we have broken him basically 8 times.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I was not there to witness some of the accidents, but apparently from what I've heard, on one Monday during robotics, we also join in robotics sometimes, as it does use, this takes time, and we decide to use our time wisely and very much. One of the 6th graders stepped on it, unfortunately. One time they moved a motor, and apparently it shattered.
Yeah,
It broke, and then earlier today, it would not cooperate, and unfortunately snapped after we decided to take a break.
So when did number 1 happen? Like
Number
when?
1 happened at the nearly end of October, end of November.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, amazing. You guys have a lot of knowledge, and you guys are just spitting it right out. We're asking questions, and you're like,
I know, they're on it. What's
on
the
it.
breakdown? Is it, how many girls and how many boys do you have in your team?
2 boys, well, two girls, and then 4 boys for the actual team, and then I think it's just 2 girls still, and it's in the 8 guys. Yeah.
Okay.
wow.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I'm impressed.
I think you guys have,
I hope you,
yeah, I think
how do
you're
you know, like, what's the criteria for you to make it onto nationals?
Top 3 teams go on to nationals. So for off the grid, it's top 10 compete in the state conference, and then top 3 compete in nationals. For just VexIQ, it will be all going to compete in state, then top 3 compete in nationals.
And you said there's 1,800 that will be
Yes,
at
it ranges from
CTAC?
high schools to middle schools all around the state.
And the top 3 of 1,800?
So top 3 of each different field.
I see, okay.
So there's like 60 different things you can do. There's multiple different things you can do with, you can do essays, video game competitions, or you could do something with renewable energy, nearly everything.
Wow.
This is meant to emulate Slapshot. This can not any towers, but there will be something like 3 or 4 different levels, and oh, there goes the back motor. There will be 3 to 4 different levels, and you are meant to try to launch them into the middle by, like they said.
Actually, I think it's the corners. I think it was the corners.
Yeah.
It was the corners.
And
Corners
then
got like
there are
10
little-
points.
Yeah, they're like little bumps that you have to try to avoid to get the most points.
Wow.
Very good.
That sounds awesome.
That's just really cool.
Is this the first year of the club?
It ran last year. It was Miss Ingle doing it last year, but sadly she left this year, so it was Miss Landers took it on and helped out.
Cool.
Me and Zeke and Gavin were the main sources of information for some of the stuff as we went to the competition last year and had some ideas on how it happens.
Yeah, oh, so you went last year, cool.
That's really
Did you make one of those last year?
No, last year game design. Yes, last year we did video game design, but unfortunately, as soon as we got there, it was originally top 12, but as soon as we got there, we found out that it was originally top 10. We placed 11.
Oh.
So it was sad. Had fun walking around.
Oh.
It was still a lot of fun, but we did get to only stay there for 1 day due to COVID restrictions, but this year we get to do 3.
How many people went to the competition last year?
3.
3?
Three,
So
just
we
there
got
was
double the
3.
number of kids going this year.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
And
It was
then-
3 in the club, 3 went. It was small. There were some teams of like 30 there, and we were sitting there like, okay.
You're like, next year.
Our hearts were big.
Well, good for you. Thank you guys so much. Thank
So
you.
stop by Hawkins anytime Monday or Tuesday after school, and you're gonna see robotics groups working and building stuff.
Where are they at?
They're either in the library or in the tech room.
Computer science.
Okay.
But any day you might see D&D, you might see
D&D
our.
takes place as well as Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, so there's a bunch of, I mean, we have pretty much anything you think of. We're starting a crochet club next week.
We have,
Oh my God.
and we, and we have another club on Thursday nights that is mechanical engineering,
Oh, wow.
which is looking at fabricating a go-kart as a club. And so they're working on that and hoping to have that time to present before spring break.
Cool.
I have a question. In the old building for Hawkins, before it was torn down, the Boys and Girls Club met and they had Lego sets that were the robotic Lego sets. If you guys want those, I bought them all, and there was, we used one of them, but you put them back together and whatever, but I will donate those to you if you guys can use them.
We'd be more than happy to take what you want to offer. We
Absolutely.
have quite a bit of robotic stuff that we're doing a little bit on Legos, but it's always great to have more options for the kids.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll give those to you. Cool.
Keep in mind, the high school has a Lego club.
That's an option. They're pretty cool. Okay, thank you guys so much. Good luck. Pretty awesome.
Wow,
In a
yes,
couple
good
weeks
luck.
here. Good luck. Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Yes,
Oh, he's already probably know them.
Okay.
They have a lot of fun. It's so cool to see their excitement and the energy that they put into this.
When I feel like in middle school, you need to be excited to go.
Thank
to
you,
middle
Robert and
school.
Kevin.
If you're having a bad day, just stop by.
Oh, for sure. Sounds good. I may stop and.
Play. Okay, that was exciting. We are now at our board development and linkage. And we're gonna turn it over to Lisa, who's filling in for Dana, and it sounds like she may turn it over to Dan.
That was what I was told.
Cool, go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Well, good evening, everyone. Happy February. I am pleased to be here to present on our status of our budget. This budget status report is where our budget was as of January 31st, 2023. We're going to begin with the budget status for our other funds, and it's being displayed. So our capital projects fund had a fund balance at the end of January of $456,712. That's a difference of $11,603 less than the previous month. Our debt service fund balance at the end of January was $522,247, an increase of $8,863 since the previous month. Our ASB fund balance at the end of January was $477,866, a difference of $1,446 more than the previous month. And then our transportation vehicle fund balance at the end of January was $510,759, an increase of $1,721. We're going to move on to our enrollment status. Now, this is our enrollment as of our February enrollment count. So, as you can see, we've been staying pretty consistent across the months since October. And the enrollment for February was 2,263.4 students, which is 3 students, or 3 FTE over our budgeted FTE. So we've been pretty close to what we planned and budgeted all along. Our average for the year, on the far right there, is under what we budgeted, but the average of 2,243.8 does include September, which did not have our Running Start students counted. So let's go ahead and move on to the general fund. So again, these numbers, this information is as of January 31st, 2023. Beginning with our general fund revenues. You can see in the top left radial dial that at the end of January, we were at 38.36% of our projected revenues. We had actually projected 38.74, so our actual was very close to what we had projected. From local sources, we were at 39.88%, and our projected was 41.67, so not too far off what we anticipated. For state resources, at the end of January, we're at 40.20%, and we had projected that we'd be at 39.78% for state revenues. And then federal, we were at 27.44, and we projected that we'd be at 31.5. So if you remember the previous months, our federal revenues were much lower than what we had projected, and I had mentioned that we still hadn't claimed or gotten reimbursements on some federal expenditure. So since last month, we have been able to do that, and that's why we're starting to catch up with our projected. Our top 10 sources of revenue, our apportionment is based on our enrollment. So far this year, our apportionment by the end of January was $8,825,811. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, where here you can see our total revenues budgeted versus projected year to date. And Jackie, if you could please scroll down a little bit more. So the bar on the far left is our budgeted revenues for the year, just over 40 million. And you can see currently, the bar on the right is our current year to date, just over 15 million. And it's right along with what we had projected, where we'd be right now. And let's go on to the next slide, please. This one shows our revenues by source, our projected year to date versus current year to date. So again, this is at the end of January. You can see most of our revenues are state revenues. That's our apportionment mainly. You can compare local, state, and federal, our projected versus current. And we're pretty close in the federal. Again, it's a little bit less than we projected, but it is catching up and getting us on track with where we had planned. And let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. This is revenues by source prior year to date versus current year to date. So we can compare this year with the previous 3 fiscal years. And the local, that's our levy. You can see where we are compared to last year because we have a levy now. But our levy is less than it had been in previous years. You can see our state revenues, that increased there for this year compared to the previous 3 years, and our federal sources as well. And then let's move on to our expenditures on the next slide. So here on the top left, you can see our projected year-end fund balance as a percent of our budgeted expenditures. So this one we have seen steadily increase since the beginning of this fiscal year. And we're currently projecting that our ending year fund balance will be at 11.47% of our budgeted expenditures. That's where we stood at the end of January. This, I think we're going to see some changes here. Our goal is to be between 8 and 10%. So currently, based on these data, we're projected to be above that. But as we move through the year with the way the apportionment is kind of given out in different percentages, we're going to see some changes and adjustments there. Our total expenditures actual year to date, at the end of January, we're at 38.81%. And projected, we had projected that we'd be at 44.72. Our salaries and benefits, actual year to date was 40.94. We had projected we'd be at 40.64%. And our basic ed actual year to date was 37.91%. And the projected year to date for basic ed was 45.9. Our top 10 expenditures, you can see basic education is our largest expenditure at $7.2 million at the end of January. District-wide support, $2.39 million. Special education supplemental, $1.69 million. Transportation, $856,000. ESSER, $695,000. VOCAD, $631,000. Food service, $620,000, and so on. So you can see there basically a breakdown of where our expenses are. And then the next slide, total expenditures budgeted versus projected year-to-date, and our current year-to-date. So our budgeted expenditures is a little over 40 million, and you can see on the bar on the right that currently our expenditures total about, at the end of January, at about 16 million, a little bit more than that. It's actually 16,025,000. So it's under what we had projected. And then going on to the next slide, please. Expenditures by object are projected year-to-date versus current year-to-date. Here you can see where the expenditures really, what areas those expenses are in. Salary, certificated being the prime, the biggest bucket. So that's just a little bit more than we had projected for our certificated salaries, a little bit less than we projected for our classified salaries. Benefits is all staff, so cert and classified together. Benefits coming in at the end of January a little more than what we had projected. And then you can see our supplies and purchase services, how they compare to what we had projected. And then moving on to the next slide. Expenditures by object, prior year-to-date versus current. So this gives us those breakdowns by object again, but comparing to previous years, you can see the difference in salaries this year compared to last. There were salary increases that the state had provided to schools, so that's mainly why we see those differences. Employee benefits as well. That is a big part of, salaries and benefits together, a big part of what our budget is being used for. You can see supplies, purchase services, also and compared to previous years. The purchase services, I know, and that's been looked at before as being more than what we had projected, if you remember the previous slide. But when you compare to previous years, it's not really abnormal. It is less than what we projected, or it's more than what we projected year to date, but it's less than in 2019-20, as you can see. And let's go ahead and look at our fund balance trend. So if you look at August through January, those are actual numbers, and then February through August are projected numbers. So January's fund balance at the end of January was $3,007,524. You can look at the dashed line just under that for January and see where compared to where we were last year at this time. All the way on the right, where there's a triangle, the bottom dashed line, that shows our budgeted year-end balance. We budgeted for a year-end balance of $3,244,558. And currently, where we stood at the end of January, our projected would be $4,737,708. So currently, our projected year-end fund balance is above what we budgeted. But again, we're going to see changes as we continue through the year. And then the final slide is a summary. And on the right side, you can see our revenues and expenditures, our current year-to-date versus the annual budgeted in the percentage. So currently our revenues total $15,377,999, which is 38% of our budget. And our expenditures were $16,025,965, which was 39% of our budget. So with that, I conclude our budget status report.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
That was very clear and smooth, and it was very easy to follow. Not that it wasn't before, just very focused. It was very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
We are at budget guidelines.
And it's Dan again.
Okay, here we
Hang
go.
There we go.
Okay. So before us, we have the superintendent's budget guidelines for 2023-24. And this document is really showing how our budget is aligned with the school district's priorities and our vision and mission of supporting the whole community, whole school, whole child. And I'm not sure if the protocol is for me to read through this or just answer any questions that you might have.
I don't think you need to read through this all. We've all hopefully had a chance to see it, but maybe you could give just like highlights.
Yes. Okay.
And this is very similar to the one that we've used for the last several years. Yeah.
Mhm. So I highlighted some things here that I thought would be good to share. So under budget requirements, on the first page, I think this is really important. In the long term, these guidelines contribute to our continual and collective efforts to attract and retain quality staff and to maintain quality programs. And I believe with the budget, we have a duty and an obligation to use our resources, our public resources, in the service of our students.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to give them a quality education, we want to have highly qualified staff. And we want to have programs and resources of high quality. So this plan helps support that priority for us. Another item on here that I thought was important to share was that we maintain a focus on our priorities. So on the top of page 2, well actually, is it 3, where it says program priorities? That our focus will be on whole child, whole school, and whole community. That's our school district focus and vision. And when I listened to our principal share earlier today during the special session, when I listened to our students sharing about robotics clubs, and every school board meeting that I've had the privilege to be at, it reinforces to me that we are doing those things.
Dan, can I add on to that a little
Yes.
bit? One thing that we wanted to make sure that was specifically stated in here is as we're moving more towards inclusion and we are looking at universal design for learning, in other words, taking away the barriers that our kids have and having more equitable services, we wanted to make sure that was in this document.
Yes.
So that our district success plan, the school's success plans, that's the purpose of our money should be going where our priorities are and what we're saying we're going to do. So that was specifically added this year to this as well.
Yeah, and
I'm
that was
happy to see that.
what I was coming to next, so I'm glad Lisa.
Sorry.
No, it's good coming from you because, Lisa being our assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, this has been her mission and goal to help support this effort, along with Kyle Ellis, our director of inclusive education. And this is here, and it's in italics, and I highlighted the whole thing because to me, that really is the purpose of why we're here as a school district, and that emphasis on an inclusive educational environment for all. And what I think, for me, with my teaching and learning background, when I first stepped into this role, I wondered, where do I fit in this? Well, I fit in a really important way because it takes resources, it takes a well-managed and a very carefully constructed and intentional budget to provide this kind of quality culture and environment for our students. So numbers are important, but what I just presented before with the budget status report, that's all numbers. But this really here is what's important about the budget and the superintendent's, her goal of how to use our budget.
Yeah.
And my job is to support her and support our school district and our school board with doing that as well.
Agreed.
Now, going forward, there's some specific guidance for budget development. And as I mentioned before, our budget is primarily driven by our enrollment. And it's really important that when we create our budget for next school year and beyond, that we're being very wise about our budgeted enrollment. You saw that we're just three FTE off right now, which is really good. Because if you read the newspaper or you listen to what's going on in some of our neighboring districts, a lot of the districts in our community, in our Kitsap County, Mason County, other areas in Washington, and who knows, maybe even the whole nation, have a declining enrollment.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's pretty significant, like 20-ish% of their student population, which is a significant detrimental impact on their budget and the resources they have. So we're looking pretty good in that regard. But we still want to be careful and we want to be cautious. So you can see here the budget enrollment will be 2,260, which is what we budgeted for 22-23, plus or minus 50 students. And so as in the next few weeks here, as we start building the budget for next year, we're going to try to be really thoughtful and wise about what we want to budget for. So that is a really important part of what's in this document. Another important part in here, you can see the EP&O levy. Our levy doesn't change. It's the same amount, $3,831,125 each collection year within our levy. So you can see that that will be our levy collections for 2023 and 2024. So that tells us, okay, this is what we have to work with for that kind of enrichment, for filling those gaps where we're not funded fully by the state. Another thing that's really important in here is that we have to maintain a fund balance. So if you can scroll down so you can see fund balance 5.0, an ending fund balance of 8.0 to 10% of expenditures will be maintained. And that's really important so that we can make sure that we are healthy, but that we're not going overboard too with just saving money. We're not in the business of making and saving money. We're in the business of using our money to educate our students, maintain our programs, support learning, support our, expenditures. But we also want to make sure we have money in that fund balance to make sure we're ready for any contingencies. So that is a policy that we want to continue to keep an eye on and maintain. So with that, those are some of the key things that I wanted to share with you. Are there any questions?
One comment I was going to make is reading through the facilities and the technology piece of it, this
Yes.
language may be something good to bring to those committees when we're talking about it.
Okay.
Specifically, just to kind of review what's
Yes.
in there.
Yes.
In what those committees are trying to accomplish.
Absolutely, that's a great suggestion. We can do that. And I know the Facilities Committee is set to meet here at the end of the month, too. So, and I think I'll be at that meeting as well, so.
I wanted to ask you for those clubs that are being developed at the middle school and probably the other schools as well, do they have a budget? Where is their source of funding?
So those are ASB.
They are.
And they have, the students have a voice in managing those budgets, fundraising if needed, making decisions about expenditures. For example, the robotics club, there might be some travel costs involved in going to that competition, and so that would come out of the ASB.
Some of those are CTE as well.
That's true.
Because with CTE classes, they have to have a club that goes along with it as
okay.
well. So some of it's CTE. And it's also in our collective bargaining agreement for stipends for certain numbers of teacher advisors that comes out of our general budget.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when they establish those clubs, we see that in our consent agenda, and there is that line item budget that they have to fill out for us. to approve it, but I also assume it gets approved by ASB before
If it's
it even
ASB.
comes to us, yeah.
Yeah, so basically the way it works with clubs is they, at the beginning, when they first start off, we give them a certain amount of money that they ask for. Then after that, yearly they submit a budget to be approved by ASB if they want to do any fundraising or any spending. And at that point, sometimes they will be allocated money depending on the club, but a lot of the funding comes from the club itself. They do the funding, they raise the money so they can get new things and go places.
Where does the money from Tolo go?
So that goes into our ASB general budget, so that goes towards any clubs that need money, because we will move money around and loan it between clubs, and it just goes to our just general ASB fund, so assemblies, activities, end of the year stuff, and other dances. So I know prom, we save a lot of money on homecoming, the rest of it finances prom for later in the year.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. It was very complete.
You're welcome.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I want to particularly add, this is one of the few budget presentations that presents vision with the numbers. And I particularly appreciated the clarity, as Leanne has already said, but you also talked about the soul of the operation. And I find a nice symmetry between what you said and what we saw, particularly from, well, the spirit-filled people over at Sand Hill. That was, so when you put the budget and the vision behind the budget and see these results here, it's a pretty impressive package. So thank you.
You're very
I
welcome.
agree with what he just said too, yes.
Thank you all. I appreciate everything you all do. Yeah, I know it's in your heart to be here to serve our students, so thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Teaching and learning update?
So most of our teaching and learning update was done during our study session from the buildings themselves. So I have the opportunity to present a couple of awards from WASDA, just a couple of your board members here. And so each year, WASDA recognized school directors for reaching milestone years of service on their local school boards. And so we appreciate the dedication of each school director and applaud their efforts on behalf of the students, staff, and community. But we have 2 members who have reached or exceeded their 15-year mark here. So it's a really cute little picture of little kids with thumbs up in here and all this too. So I have one of these for Mr. John Campbell.
Oh, is that a picture of me? That's a picture of me when I was younger.
Wow.
And then Anne.
Quite a change.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Very cool. That's pretty amazing.
That is.
Yeah.
That is some
Oh,
dedicated service.
That's some stamina right there. I can't imagine.
Time will come.
It's really good money.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you're in it for, right?
Yeah. Okay, we are at upcoming board letter columnists. February is Leanna, March is Laura, April is myself, May is Eric, and June is John. Legislative representative report, that is myself. As the WASDA rep, it's been busy, as Morgan has attested to. I've been on calls weekly, kind of previewing the week ahead, and then I spend some time each weekend reading every education bill and at least trying to vote pro or con, if not do testimony. And Dana and I have been working pretty closely together on that. She'll share with me things that she's learned through her organizations. Some of the bills, thankfully things are starting to slow down because we've reached kind of this midway point where it's kind of make or break it with some of these bills if they've made it out of committee or not.
I've been really following the transitional kindergarten bill closely because that's close to my heart, and we've just worked so hard to have that program here at North Mason for the, first time. And there is a bill that when initially presented, it just would pose a lot of challenges for our district to continue the program at the excellence level that it's been performing at. Particularly, there are concerns about the state kind of wanting to take away the mechanism by which we pay for that and taking away the flexibility and wanting us to pay for those teachers through ECAP funding models, which for us would mean paying those teachers less than we pay our paras at our schools, which is part of the challenge for why the state has trouble hiring for ECAP to begin with. So DCYF, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and OSPI, they submitted some hefty testimony that just this week, I think it really pushed the needle a bit, and just this week, that particular bill made it out of an executive committee with a lot of amendments. And I still haven't totally parsed all of those through. And so it sounds like it's going to be a little bit more amenable, but still could be pretty challenging for our district. And whether we're able to continue that. So that's kind of a wait and see. Recess, that's been a big topic. There were 2 bills, one in the House, one in the Senate, for mandatory 45-minute recesses. At this point, both of those bills have now been a little bit watered down to 30 minutes of required recess time. WASDA at least, and Dana would kind of agree with this in the conversation she and I have had. We're sort of advocating for the local control. It's really hard when the state comes in and says, you have to do it X, Y, and Z. You have to provide for this. And also you can't do it that way, and you have to do it with, under these requirements. It just makes it challenging, and they, of course, don't associate any costs with it. So it looks like those are moving, though. I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, the calendar I wanted to say. So we're just at that point where things are starting to slow down and people aren't submitting these bills rapid fire. I will also be going to the conference at the end of the month and Dana will as well, and the Day on the Hill. So I'm excited for that, just to be down there and see how it all is, and to actually see which of these bills are going to rise to the top. So that's my ledge update.
Very good.
Okay, monitoring reports. I don't think we have any this month. Since Dana's not here. So we've moved on to the adjournment and the good of the order portion of the night. I'll start down here. Laura, do you have anything for the good of the order?
Oh, I can't top what we've seen here tonight from those kids. That was just awesome, and I'm so thrilled that our middle school administration puts as much emphasis on the fun stuff as on the academics. You have to have a reason to come to school.
Yeah,
and they
especially
did
those
a
kids.
great job, and just a interesting group of kids. And the young man who did a great deal of talking, he was very knowledgeable about what they are trying to do, and it was just interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really pleased that you are sharing school board information with your ASB or leadership or wherever so that they can have some input too.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that.
I try.
Have you gone to any roundtables this past month?
No, I went to the senior class meeting Tuesday, basically as the representative for the Foundation for Scholarships, and that was kind of a eye-opener for me that I mean, I really wanted to just say, what do you people think you're going to do when you graduate?
Oh,
Because there are
really?
not very many portfolios that have been made to submit, and Dr. Mosby said that there were only just a few kids who had signed up on the scholarship list. So, as it all turned out, and Morgan was there too, I think there were a number of kids who came by and picked up my information. So maybe I just tweaked them enough. You know, it's like spend 10 hours on your portfolio and you get $5,000 in scholarships. Do the math. At $500 an hour,
Yeah.
you know, that's significant. So anyway, I'll be going back to the high school and just have an information table.
Oh, good.
Probably the first week in March.
It's less than what you've seen previously with your time?
Yes.
So I wonder if that's the pandemic and just the
I don't
kids
think
losing the
so.
motivation. A lot of them have
I don't
lost
think
the
so.
skills.
I think I really leaned hard on the fact that it's not just 4-year schools, not just 2-year, not just 1 year even. It could be firefighter school, welding school, cosmetology. I mean, we can help out with pretty much anything that you want to,
Yeah.
endeavor to do after you graduate. I think last year we had 30 notebooks. Is that right, Art? Was it about 30? And then this year, I don't know how many kids have submitted, but I know kids didn't even think about it until after I started talking to them and telling them, do this. Don't you think so, Morgan?
Yeah, there weren't a whole lot of kids that even knew about this beforehand. It wasn't a good eye opener for a lot of the kids, but still, it probably went from a fourth of the kids even knowing what was going on to now we have about half doing something, give or take a few. So it's definitely quite the improvement, but we're trying to get the word out more. But it's hard to get the word out to some of these seniors who are all over the place.
What's the difference in the marketing? Is it like before, if there were so many more before, is there a change in where that information is, or a change in where they can?
Nothing has changed about where the information is or who they can talk to. Dr. Mosby is there for the most part all the time, and he really approaches students one-on-one and tries to urge them to get involved. He did tell me, though, and this was pretty interesting, that the shipyard has apprenticeships that they are offering students. The moment you graduate, you can go to work in the shipyard.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
People are just kidding.
that's a nice opportunity for a lot of kids who, don't want to go to school or get any further.
Oh, you go to school. The apprenticeship is school.
Okay. Well, it's a different kind of school, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different style, but 4 years of 3 years and then 1 year on the job. I graduated there. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, so anyway.
Thank you.
So why aren't kids taking advantage of these? I mean, it sounds like we've got a real imbalance between what we're hearing in the lower schools, and it's like there's something flat.
And there may be a shift now that I feel like the momentum is coming now from the lower grades into high school. And probably the best thing to do would be to go to the 8th grade and make a presentation there about what's available for students and start thinking about it now. Think about volunteer activities. The high school students have to produce their high school and beyond plan. It's a graduation requirement. That plan is basically a scholarship notebook. All they have to do is add their transcript and a couple of other things to it, and that could be their notebook. So, it's hard to say. Some years, we've never had a lot of notebooks. There's 180 kids that graduate and 30 of them.
Is there a notebook, like workshop? Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I figured there was, it just,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's all available. It's all there in the high school, and
Yeah.
the principals do a really nice job of, hey, working on your notebook, because I saw a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, it's just what we have right now, so. we'll just keep
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for that work. Eric?
I was just going to thank the community members that came out for the technology meeting that we had. And for the community members that will be present for the facilities one that we are having later this month.
Thank you for going to those.
It was, it definitely gave us some groundwork, starting work, and I think it's gonna have a lot of benefits coming out of it, so.
That's really great.
That's it.
This past month, or this month, I think it's CTE month, Career Tech and Ed month. So I actually got to go to the high school with my work cap on, but it was like multiple worlds colliding because my brother works at the high school and so does my husband. So it was like family, school board, but I'm working for Mason Health, and our lab manager came with me, and we had a table up for all of the lunches and tried to talk to people about careers in the lab sciences. And that was pretty fun. And I worked on a slide for student school board member recruitment, a slide for the high school commons, and Eric Nygaard told me today that it's been up for a couple of days. So that's all that I'll add for my good of the order. I've already talked a lot.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Well, I have to give a shout out to the Boys and Girls Club that my son, he's been in there for a month or so. And one thing that they do when he gets to go down after school is called the Power Hour. And they help them. They've got somebody from up here down there that helps them with their homework and gets into the computer, and anytime they're having, like, they can't find something, there's just like somebody there that a parent can't do. I mean, they probably could, but I have to come up here sometimes and go, show me. Because your kid, I mean, if you have a kid like mine that's like, oh yeah, I'm all done, I can't find that he's not done, you know? But they know. And then the school actually gets a hold of the people down there and talks with the study groups, and then make sure that they know the bulk of actually what is missing. So he's actually caught up, and not just mommy caught up. Like, I'm like, okay, I guess you're done. And he's like, great. That has changed our household a lot, and his confidence, and just our whole house. And I just learned, I knew of this. Young Life is an outside of the school thing, but they meet here once a month. It is a faith-based thing, but we're going to try that one out too. That's it's another connection thing for kids to be able to. Here. Yeah, they meet here on the campus, but it's not it's not paid for or anything by here. But those are a couple things that we didn't really think that we were like, oh, we probably don't need that, you know. And I'm like, maybe Boys and Girls Club might be good, because he got left here one day he missed the bus and called me because it was the first time he ever missed it, you know. And I was like, how do we get him? We're not even there. We can't get him for 3 hours, you know. Grandma, thank God. But if he had Boys and Girls Club, he would have been able to just run down there and no stress, whatever. So, and they feed them dinner. I mean, we have dinner at home, but when it's really late, he gets that structure in there. And kids have a room, and parents have access, but they don't go in that room, and they don't have access to the things that are happening or they're talking about. You know, they just get to be. So I thought that was really cool, and just kind of the getting to witness all of these things that were happening today, and that my son's kind of gotten to be part of a lot of these things. I'm really proud to tell people about our school, about our district, that what sets us aside from other districts. So, and these little things on the side are some of them. Cornhole, there is an adult state championship, and you do not have to be 18 or older. So just so you know.
Actually, we have someone who is in that state
Oh, good for
championship
you,
coming
good for
and
you.
training us.
The last part is down by my shop, and we actually host it. So that's that one, and congratulations on your pilot license.
Thank you.
So yes, I feel really bad that you didn't say that out loud while we were here, because that's amazing.
I was going to get to that eventually.
Yeah. Wow.
Go ahead, John.
So he's high.
Okay.
I've said mine.
I just have a couple of things answering questions. As far as the round tables go, we are looking at trying to do more of a smaller group setting. If you guys are still interested in doing that, we'll still probably try to do the full-on round table because there are some requirements that do need to be satisfied that fills. So we'll still probably do that, and then we can do a few during lunches that day because normally it's right before lunches. So we're working something out, so we should have something ready to go for hopefully next month.
I thought there was a listening lunch scheduled in February.
I was gonna
February
ask.
28th.
There's one the
Oh.
28th. Okay.
What about the one? Because that reminded me that. Oh no, it must have got rescheduled. So that was the one that got rescheduled because of the audit entrance
Yes.
exam. Okay. Okay.
So thank you, Jackie, for that reminder. Yes, we do have one scheduled the 28th. I guess I was unaware of.
Oh, okay. So, do we know from our group? Are you gonna go?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
I think John's going to the second lunch on the 28th.
Okay. He's like, sure. Okay.
And
You can remind me.
Was there anything more, Morgan? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so, and then as far as scholarship notebooks and advertising goes, we have actually upped that since last year. We have a graduation specialist who is constantly, she sends out a senior bulletin every month with information. And whenever she gets emails from various scholarship organization, various people, she sends that directly to us. She sends out all the information. But granted, I don't think half the seniors even use their school email or know they even have one at this point anymore. We're trying to fix that, but we're also announcing things over in the announcements. Mosby has signs up, and he is always open. The counselors have information, and there's at least 4 different people that could help if students choose to go to them. Their counselors, the graduation specialists, and then Dr. Mosby will all help them with this. So we're trying, but I think the biggest problem is during COVID, this was barely mentioned at all. We heard of it, I remember hearing a little bit of it freshman year, and then COVID hit. Didn't hear anything about it for about 2 years, and the junior year, they mentioned it again, and then come senior year, it's, oh shoot, you need to get this done. So I think that's part of the problem, is they're just, during that COVID, during that crucial time when you would be compiling this, they didn't hear about that. So I think that's the biggest problem with it. But we're advertising every single way we can to try to get this information out to everyone and make it readily available, because it's there, they just have to take it. And then as far as student school board members go, there has been posters up in the Commons, but we have not received any applications. I checked in with the principal. 2 kids are interested, but no one has turned in an application yet.
Okay.
So we'll
you and
see.
Audrey need to go on your listening tour.
I'm-
Go to every classroom.
Yeah, I may have to go on a tour, maybe do some teeth pulling. But we're also trying to get away if there is if there are more than 2 kids that sign up,
Yeah.
which isn't a high bar, but we're going to try to do a way to get some sort of a student voice. The student body will have we're thinking maybe making at least some form of formal recommendation or endorsement to the board. So this is when they come and they're interviewed by the board, they will have that formal endorsement from the student body. So we're not quite sure yet. It's not finalized. I need
Yeah,
to
I
work
think we
with
need to work that
the
out a little
superintendent and the powers that be at that. But we're just something like that. We're finishing up the policies so everyone's happy and everyone has a voice. So
Yeah.
but other than that, that's all I
I
have.
think that should be the focus, well, not the focus, but for the roundtables coming up and moving into the rest of the year, we should be talking about the student board membership opportunity for those of you that are going to those. Okay, so Director Youngberg will process the board's self-assessment.
Okay. All right, so self-assessment for tonight. The agenda was well planned, focused on the real work of the board. I think that was satisfactory. The board followed the agenda, did not let itself get sidetracked. Satisfactory. The board members were prepared for the meeting. Satisfactory. The meeting proceeded without interruptions or distractions. I gave us satisfactory on that. The board deliberations and decision-making process were public. Gave us a satisfactory on that. Participation was well balanced and all participated, no one dominated. Satisfactory on that one. Members listened attentively, avoided side conversations. Gave us satisfactory on that one. Work was conducted in an atmosphere of trust and openness. Again, satisfactory. Meeting participants are treat each other with respect and courtesy. Satisfactory on all of those.
Thank you. All right, we are at, our next school board meeting date is March 16th. Here in the boardroom at 6:30, same time, same place. And I am adjourning the meeting here at 7:58.
Thank you.
Thank you.